Hello, and salutations, my friends. Today, I'll be blessing you all with my early access review for Deadzone Rogue, and this game was developed and published by Prophecy Games on April 29th, 2025. Deadzone Rogue is a roguelite FPS set in a cold and unforgiving expanse of the deep space, and you play as an amnesiac who awakens aboard the ISS-X, with the only goal of figuring out who you are, what has happened to the ship, and facing down a relentless legion of rogue machines. To do this, you'll need to select a mission and equip yourself with your permanent upgrades to take on the enemies you'll be facing. And down in the depths of the space station, you'll come across powerful weapons, upgrades, perks, and more to accomplish your overall goal. To go into the game's story, I'd say that while it has an overall storyline, it isn't the game's main focus, as with most roguelites. It acts purely as a way to set up a gameplay loop and give you a motive for all of the destruction that you'll be causing. And there are also scattered pieces of lore around the ship that give you little glimpses as to what the passengers and the workers on the ISS-X were like. However, that's about it outside of some atmospheric storytelling. Thankfully, this isn't a bad thing at all because the gameplay is clearly the star of the show, and I have to say it is solid. You're simply here to blast through hordes of enemies, and I think that's perfectly fine. But going into Deadzone Rogue's gameplay, I'd say that it's at its core a prime example of a roguelite. This means that you'll need to go on a series of runs as you blast through tons of enemies, and your primary form of progression exists outside of these individual runs in your main hub area. And here you can select the sector that you'll be undertaking your mission in and make permanent upgrades to your build. And you can also say hello to a little friend that you have that's a plant. And for those permanent upgrades that I was talking about, you're able to select from three main categories, which are health and defensive enhancements, damage increases, and various utility upgrades. And within these categories, you'll find exactly what you would expect. Options for permanently increased health, amplified primary weapon damage, boosted sprint speed, and much more, which allows you to gradually reshape yourself into a killing machine. And as for the game's current scope, there are two distinct zones available. While that might sound limited, each zone has multiple missions at various difficulty levels. So the missions each have 20 to 30 rooms that you'll need to progress through. So there's plenty of content even if the game's still in its early access state. Once you deploy into a zone, you'll need to blast through the previously mentioned 20 to 30 rooms, where you'll be tasked with annihilating all enemies before you can proceed. And enemies will drop different weapons and armor on varying power levels, as well as two different types of currency: scrap to purchase upgrades, weapons, and health during your run, and tech to help fund those permanent upgrades back in the hub. And after you clear a room, you're rewarded with either a powerful perk, a useful item, or a new weapon for your efforts. And these choices are one of the most important decisions that you can make in a run, as they significantly determine your playstyle and help you craft your build. And personally, I always gravitate towards the electric or void builds because I just find that playstyle pretty fun in this game. After you've fought your way through enough waves of mob enemies or defeat a mini-boss room, you'll eventually encounter a safe room. And these safe havens will heal you a bit and grant you access to a fabricator, where you can spend your in-run currency on new weapons, health packs, or upgrades for your existing equipment. And after resupplying, you're right back into the fray of battle, and yeah, that's essentially how the game plays out. It's a very simple gameplay loop, but let me tell you, it's a very satisfying one, and I'll go into that now. Honestly, this game benefits greatly from its simplicity. It doesn't rely on any overly complicated gimmick, but instead it pulls off all of its focus on purely delivering incredibly satisfying gunplay, and a fantastic sense of momentum as you blast your enemies to smithereens. And the weapons feel incredibly good to use, with a solid weight and punch to them. And the feeling of annihilating these hordes of hunter drones, robotic spiders, and all these other enemies that they have is just wonderful. And the perks, items, weapons, and upgrades that you find all feel like they have a genuine impact on how you play. You can sculpt your own combat style fairly easily with the options that you're given, whether you prefer dominating from afar or just rapidly taking down your enemies with fast-firing bullets. Heck, you can even get up close and personal with enhanced melee capabilities, with the sort of stealth perks that they have in this game. And even if you don't stumble across your usual go-to weapons, I'd say that you still can make do and have a ton of fun experimenting. My absolute favorite weapons in this game have to be the SMGs, the fully automatic pistols, and the Rampage shotgun specifically, as they just feel really good, and especially when you pair them with the elemental perks, they just are so fun to play with. And speaking of the elements, my top picks are hands down the electricity and void perks. I mean, I've mentioned this before, but I have to say it again. They're really fun to use, and they absolutely just shred groups of enemies, especially when they're combined with the weapons that I favor, and I just love it. This is just a testament to the game's design, and that all weapons and perks just feel fantastic. And let me tell you, this game absolutely excels at just making you feel that one more run pull that any good roguelike or roguelite should have, and I find myself just genuinely excited to jump into another run the moment one ends. And when I do lose a run, I know that's entirely my fault, whether it be a misstep, a bad dodge, a missed shot, or just me panicking under gunfire. And it's not a cheap shot or an unfair game mechanic that killed me, and that honestly feels really good because it makes the death feel fair and like there's always something that I could personally improve on for the next attempt. This game just really pushes you to master its core mechanics and adapt your strategy to how you play and the game modes that you're playing throughout the game. But moving on from the gameplay, let's talk about how the game presents itself. The graphics and art direction are just really well done. The enemies just are really well designed, and they have a clear biomechanical theme, and there's a surprising amount of variety in their designs, ensuring that you're not just facing the two same foes constantly. And I was really impressed with the diversity of the designs, especially considering this game is still in early access. And the ship sectors themselves, from the engine rooms to the various hallways, are distinct and just add an extra layer of strategic variety with their use of cover and the explosive barrels, so it has the sort of form and the function. And the sound design is generally good in this game too, as the weapons sound really crisp and impactful, and they make you feel like you're genuinely powerful as you hear your bullets ripping through your enemies, your elemental abilities crackling and proccing, and the satisfying explosions of your mayhem. And it's just an excellent example of the sound design enhancing the feeling of the combat. As for the music, while it might not be the absolute highlight of the game, it certainly doesn't disappoint, as it perfectly matches the intense sci-fi tone and the mood of the levels, and there's this enough variety in the tracks that you won't get tired of them too quickly. The soundtrack is good and contributes positively to the overall experience. And on the matter of achievement hunting, the game is still in early access and likely doesn't have its full, arrangement of achievements yet, but what's currently available is pretty fun to aim for. And I think that the game offers a fantastic mix of achievements, from cool Easter eggs to just natural progression milestones. And they even have some pretty challenging achievements too, which is pretty awesome. And the balance makes the overall experience of trying to complete this game pretty enjoyable. So I'd say that this game is really good on the achievement front. So overall, Deadzone Rogue is an absolutely amazing roguelike FPS, and it's even more amazing when you especially consider that it's still in early access. It presents a focused and incredibly satisfying gameplay loop that's just built around solid gunplay, impactful upgrades, and just a fantastic sense of progression. And the diverse enemy designs and well-crafted sound design also helps elevate the combat, which makes the game feel even better. And the game perfectly captures that one more run feeling, encouraging you to constantly improve, whether you're tackling it solo or up to 3 friends in co-op, if you have the friends to play it with, which I unfortunately didn't have for this one. And the inclusion of features like the starting stealth you get when you enter areas and the difficulty adjustment for missions makes the experience even better. And honestly, this could have easily been a full release and it would still stand strongly on its own. I really have to give a huge shout out to the developers for developing such an impressive game, and it's even more exciting to know that they have more planned down the road to make it even better. And I can't express how much fun I had with this game and how genuinely impressed I am with its current state. So due to these reasons, I'll be giving Deadzone Rogue a 5 out of 5 for casual players and a 5 out of 5 for completionists. It's honestly that good. So yeah, there are my thoughts on Deadzone Rogue. Hopefully this gives you a clear picture on what the game is all about. And if you have any further questions or want to share your thoughts on the game, then feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, then liking it would help me a ton. And I encourage you to subscribe for more content like this. But for now, I'm off, and take care, everyone.